Understanding California place names. California has an abundance of intriguing place names for its hamlets, junctions, wide spots, towns, stage stops, villages, and railroad sections. Vague regions clinging to the names of motley collections of cafes and gas stations. These places draw sustenance from their names, just as lichens spring forth from the face of a rock, seeming to gather nourishment from the peculiarities of the local air alone. Authenticity anywhere comes with dirt under its fingernails. So to truly understand the name of a California place, you have to go there, roll it in a while, and get the place on your clothes. You'll really need several maps when you seek out interesting names and places to go. But all maps are not created equal. Some maps include details that are entirely missing on others, and some maps are just flat wrong. Unfortunately, bad maps are also the easiest to find. Among the best maps to use are topo maps from the USGS, aircraft sectional charts from the FAA, often available at your local small airport, Thomas Brothers County maps, BLM and Forest Service maps, and county recorders maps. Privately published local maps are equally valuable sources of names which cannot be found on a gas station map. Try the Chamber of Commerce, local historical society, or visitor center for these maps. Place names have a kind of musicality that will attune you to places you find fascinating and worthy of a visit. So map indexes make very good reading. Remember that oddball local and regional maps have indexes that are waiting to be mined for obscure names and obscure places. No self-respecting grump would consider going anywhere else. Take Hornitos for an example. Hornitos means little ovens in Spanish. It's a nearly deserted gold rush town with a wild and woolly past. A fine day can be had there searching out the little ovens. However, if you're more than ordinarily grumpy or fiercely independent and you want to eschew Grumps Guide's glossary of Spanish translations in the back of the book, well, never mind. You can still have a perfectly grumpy time looking for mythical small woolly creatures that scurry about horn uppermost to surprise the unwary. And so what? Searches that hinge on a name, however whimsical, can be very rewarding. At the very least, they have a lasting personal memories of your visit, and the name will be forever flushed out in your memory so that the place itself becomes indelibly yours. In the California desert, absolutely unfathomable names like Trona, Amboy, and Booma mix with Indian place names which are a study in themselves. Political names like Independence and Laws mix with the frankly egocentric Bealsville, Randsburg, and Tom's Place. The Chocolate Mountain Gunnery Range stands out both as an enticement and as a caution to the wandering grump. Frequently, an English-Spanish dictionary can really help you understand why people settled in a place and what they thought about it. Decipher Palo Alto, tall tree, and Palos Verdes, which means green trees, and you'll have discovered something valuable about the landmarks in the desert or along the shoreline. The first is a directional signpost visible over a long distance. The other is an oasis of shade and water. If you take time to travel by foot, by bicycle, by motorcycle, or by boat, these signposts and their names will quickly assume their proper importance. Contrast in local names may chronicle long-standing differences of opinion or values which are still palpable and interesting today. Weird little towns often have wonderfully weird little museums in stores or bars or in old storefronts. Ask at the post office, the library, the local bar, or a rural gas station. Eventually, you'll hit pay dirt. Then use these local sources when looking for mines, railroad beds, hot springs, caves, ghost towns, vista points, swimming holes, side roads, descendants of old families, collections of stuffed hunting trophies, or a local historian. Today's names may be relatively recent, and several other names may have preceded it. The town where I live now has a Spanish name, not bequeathed by the Spanish. For 100 years before that, it was called Howard's, and was briefly named Summit by the local land baron and his railroad cronies. First it was a whistle stop, then a logging town, before it sprouted hotels and became a tourist spot on an excursion railway from San Francisco. The narrow gauge railway is gone, but the roadbed and parts of some timber trestles remain if you know where to look. Among the most enticing and frustrating California place names are those found on railroads. Sometimes a sign on a railroad right-of-way is the only remaining clue that there once was a town, a collection of cabins, or a crossroads in that place. Then again, the name may only refer to an agreed-upon spot to load milk or pick up freight from an isolated farm. Old maps will point you to these lost places where no buildings remain. Sometimes when you get there, the only clue will be once cultivated flower beds or vegetables like artichokes now gone wild. Places that are miles from a market town may have been on an electric trolley line at the beginning of the 20th century. Between 1895 and 1930, any self-respecting city with a main street 2 blocks long and 5,000 residents on the outskirts had or wanted its own electric trolley line. Most electric trolley systems ran profitably and cleanly until General Motors, Mack Truck, and Goodyear Tires conspired to buy up all of America's electric trolleys and scrap them. Most trolley routes are now long paved over. See the chapter Prospecting Under the Pavement. Some lines that weren't turned into roads left small villages all but forgotten. Maybe you will discover one in your travels around the important but forgotten parts of California. Chances are you won't have to go far. Worthwhile trips can be organized around finding old railway express buildings and train stations. Once a distinctive part of California's architectural heritage, the yellow or red buildings with high loading docks covered by exaggerated eaves have now all but disappeared from beside California's railroad tracks. These gems of California history have fallen victim to freeway expansions, to frontage road strip culture, and motorized truck transport. With the passing of these endangered buildings into obscurity, we have lost the last tangible reminder that the trains once stopped here and why. Not only have we forgotten that people actually use trains, we've lost a much finer measure of locale, only to find it replaced by the 13 featureless off-ramps of San Bernardino. Even in city and suburban areas of California, a walk of a mile or two down a railroad right-of-way will yield mile markers and section markers still in use that bear the names of vanished or engulfed small enclaves. Some of those settlements were the seeds upon which a city or a town crystallized 100 or 150 years before. While you are prospecting in town, cast a critical eye on the wooden architecture around you. What may look like dollhouse-sized shacks in the backyards of very old houses frequently were the first homes of railwaymen, market hunters, marginal farmers, or small tradesmen. These are now long since given over to cars or dogs or storage. The contrast in scale of these tiny redwood shacks not only mirrors the growth of California's economy and population, but a dramatic shift in attitudes as well.